Listen to me very carefully because what I'm about to tell you will save you years of heartbreak, confusion, and wasted energy. I've studied human psychology, ancient wisdom, and relationship dynamics for over a decade, and there are 5 specific phrases that when a man says them to you, they reveal his true intentions so clearly that ignoring them is like ignoring a fire alarm in your own house. These aren't just red flags, they're psychological manipulation tactics disguised as normal conversation, and once you hear them, you'll never unhear them. Stay until the very end, because the 5th one is so subtle, yet so devastating, that 99% of women miss it completely, and it's probably the most important thing you'll learn about protecting your energy this year. Before we dive into these 5 phrases, you need to understand something that will change how you see every interaction with men forever. Most women have been conditioned to give the benefit of the doubt, to see potential instead of reality, to heal instead of protect. This conditioning runs so deep that we've lost our natural instinct to detect emotional predators. And yes, that's exactly what I'm calling them. Emotional predators who use specific language patterns to test your boundaries, lower your standards, and make you question your own worth. The ancient Chinese philosophy of Shi Heng Yi teaches us that words carry energy, and when someone speaks to you, they're not just communicating information. They're transferring their internal state, their intentions, and their level of respect for you directly into your energetic field. This is why certain conversations leave you feeling drained, confused, or questioning yourself, even when you can't pinpoint exactly what went wrong. Your intuition was picking up on the energetic signature of manipulation, but your logical mind was trying to rationalize it away. What I'm about to share with you isn't just relationship advice. It's a form of energetic self-defense that will protect not just your heart, but your entire life trajectory. Because here's what nobody talks about. The man you choose doesn't just affect your romantic life. He affects your career, your friendships, your relationship with your family, your self-esteem, your financial future, and even your physical health. Choose wrong and you'll spend years of your precious life force trying to heal from the damage. Choose right, or better yet, learn to identify and walk away from the wrong ones immediately, and you create space for something beautiful to enter your life. The first phrase that should make you run, not walk. Away is when a man says you're too sensitive, or any variation like you're being dramatic or you're overreacting. This phrase is psychological manipulation at its finest because it's designed to make you question your own perception of reality. When a man dismisses your emotional responses as being too much, he's not commenting on your sensitivity. He's revealing his inability to handle a woman who knows her worth and speaks her truth. Here's what's really happening when he says this. He's testing whether you'll abandon your own emotional intelligence to accommodate his comfort. He's seeing if you'll shrink yourself to make him feel bigger. A man who truly cares about you doesn't dismiss your feelings. He gets curious about them. He asks questions. He listens. He tries to understand your perspective even if he doesn't initially agree with it. When a man tells you that your natural emotional responses are wrong or excessive, he's essentially telling you that he values his own comfort more than your authentic self-expression. The most insidious part about this phrase is that it plants a seed of self-doubt that grows over time. You start questioning every emotion, every gut instinct, every moment of intuitive knowing. You begin to monitor yourself constantly, wondering if you're being too much again. This is exactly what emotional predators want. They want you disconnected from your internal guidance system because your intuition is the one thing that can protect you from their manipulation. Women who have experienced this type of dismissal often find themselves years later having to rebuild their relationship with their own emotions. They've lost touch with what they actually feel because they've been trained to believe their feelings are wrong. This is energetic violence, and it's happening in relationships everywhere because we've normalized it as just how men are. But I'm here to tell you that conscious, evolved men don't operate this way. They understand that a woman's emotional depth is not a bug to be fixed, but a feature to be honored. The second phrase that should send you running is, "I'm just being honest," or "I'm just telling you the truth," especially when it follows a cruel, unnecessary, or deliberately hurtful comment. This phrase is a manipulation tactic designed to make cruelty seem like a virtue. When someone uses honesty as a weapon, they're not being honest. They're being abusive and trying to make you feel grateful for the abuse. Real honesty comes from a place of love and genuine care for the other person's well-being. It's delivered with kindness, compassion, and consideration for timing and context. When a man says something deliberately hurtful and then hides behind the excuse of just being honest, he's revealing that he either lacks empathy entirely or enjoys causing you pain and wants to make it your fault for being hurt by it. I've seen this pattern destroy women's self-esteem systematically. He'll make comments about your appearance, your intelligence, your dreams, your friends, your family, anything that matters to you. And when you express that his words hurt, he'll act like you're the problem for not appreciating his honesty. This creates a psychological trap where you start believing that love means accepting cruelty and that asking for kindness makes you weak or needy. The truth is that a man who loves you will naturally want to build you up, not tear you down. Yes, sometimes difficult conversations need to happen in relationships, but they happen with care, with the intention to strengthen the bond, not to diminish you as a person. When someone consistently uses honesty as an excuse to be cruel, they're showing you that they don't have your best interests at heart. They're more interested in asserting dominance than in creating genuine intimacy. What makes this phrase particularly dangerous is that our culture has conditioned us to value honesty above kindness. So we often feel like we should be grateful when someone is real with us, even when that realness feels like emotional violence. But here's what I want you to understand. You can have both honesty and kindness. In fact, true honesty without compassion isn't honesty at all. It's just cruelty wearing a mask of virtue. The third phrase that should make every alarm bell in your system go off is you're being controlling when you express a boundary, a need, or a concern about his behavior. This is gaslighting in its purest form, and it's designed to make you afraid of advocating for yourself in the relationship. When a man labels your reasonable requests as controlling behavior, he's training you to stop asking for what you need. Let me be crystal clear about what boundaries actually are. They're not controlling, they're not demands, and they're not punishments. Boundaries are simply you communicating what you need to feel safe, respected, and valued in the relationship. When you say things like, "I need you to call when you're going to be late," or "I'm not comfortable with how you spoke to me," or "I need us to have dedicated time together without distractions," you're not being controlling. You're being clear about your standards. A man who responds to your boundaries by calling you controlling is revealing something crucial about his character. He believes his freedom is more important than your peace of mind. He's showing you that he views your needs as obstacles to his convenience rather than important information about how to love you well. This is not the foundation of a healthy relationship. This is the foundation of a dynamic where you gradually lose yourself trying to avoid being labeled as too much. What happens to women in these situations is heartbreaking. They start shrinking their needs, minimizing their discomfort, and accepting treatment that goes against their values because they've been convinced that having standards equals being controlling. They begin to pride themselves on being low maintenance and easygoing, not realizing that they're actually abandoning themselves to accommodate someone who doesn't value their well-being. Here's what you need to know. A man who truly loves you wants to know your boundaries because he wants to honor them. He understands that your boundaries aren't limitations on the relationship. They're the framework that allows trust and intimacy to flourish. When you feel safe to express your needs without being labeled or dismissed, you can actually relax into the relationship and show up as your most authentic, loving self. The men who call you controlling for having boundaries are the same men who will take advantage of you if you don't have them. They want access to all of you while giving you the minimum in return. They want the benefits of a committed relationship without the responsibility that comes with genuinely caring for another person's heart. The fourth phrase is perhaps the most subtle but equally destructive. "I'm not ready for a relationship," or "I don't want anything serious right now." But here's the key. He says this while simultaneously acting like you're in a relationship. He texts you constantly, spends most of his free time with you, introduces you to his friends, maybe even his family. shares intimate details about his life, and creates all the emotional intimacy of a committed relationship while explicitly telling you that's not what this is. This phrase is emotional manipulation disguised as honesty, and it's designed to give him all the benefits of having you in his life without any of the accountability that comes with actually choosing you. He gets to have his cake and eat it too. He gets your emotional support, your physical affection, your time, your energy, and your loyalty, while maintaining the freedom to walk away whenever he wants without feeling guilty because he told you from the beginning that he wasn't ready. What makes this particularly devastating is that it puts you in an impossible position. If you stay and accept the situation, you're essentially agreeing to be undervalued and treated as optional. If you express that you want more, he can point to his earlier disclaimer and make you feel like you're the one who changed the rules. If you walk away, you feel like you're throwing away something that could potentially become real if you just wait long enough. But here's what I need you to understand. When a man wants to be with you, really be with you, there's no confusion. There's no not ready or not sure or let's see where this goes. When a man recognizes your value and wants to secure his place in your life, he moves with intention and clarity. The men who keep you in relationship limbo aren't confused about what they want. They know exactly what they want, and it's to have you available without having to fully commit to you. This dynamic is particularly painful because it keeps you emotionally invested while systematically eroding your sense of self-worth. You start to believe that you're not valuable enough to be chosen fully, that you need to prove your worth by accepting less than what you actually want. You begin to see commitment as something you have to earn rather than something you deserve simply by being yourself. The most insidious part is that these men often genuinely care about you. They enjoy your company, they are attracted to you, they might even love you in their own limited way, but they care about their own freedom and options more than they care about your happiness and security. They'd rather keep you in an uncertain situation than risk losing access to you by being honest about their intentions. Now we come to the fifth and most dangerous phrase, the one that's so subtle that most women don't even recognize it as manipulation until years later when they're trying to rebuild their sense of self. This phrase is, "You've changed," but not in a good way. He says it with disappointment, with accusation, with the implication that the person you're becoming is somehow worse than who you were when he met you. This phrase is soul-crushing because it's designed to make you abandon your growth, your evolution, and your authentic self to return to a version of yourself that was more convenient for him. When a man says, "You've changed," as a criticism, he's revealing that he fell in love with your potential for serving his needs, not with your potential for becoming who you're meant to be. Here's what's really happening. You're growing, evolving, setting boundaries, pursuing your dreams, speaking your truth, or simply becoming more confident in who you are. And instead of celebrating this growth, instead of feeling proud to witness your evolution, he feels threatened by it. Why? Because the version of you that he preferred was smaller, more manageable, more focused on him, and less focused on your own expansion. This phrase is particularly devastating because it targets your most vulnerable spot, your need to be loved and accepted as you are. When someone you care about implies that your growth is a betrayal of who you really are, it creates a psychological crisis. You start to question whether becoming more yourself is worth the risk of losing love. You begin to wonder if you should shrink back down to the size that felt safer for him. I've watched women abandon their dreams, their friendships, their career goals, and their personal growth because a man made them feel like their evolution was somehow selfish or wrong. They stop going to therapy because he says it's changing them. They stop pursuing their passions because he preferred when their attention was more focused on him. They stop setting boundaries because he liked them better when they were more accommodating. But here's what you need to understand at the deepest level. A man who truly loves you doesn't just accept your growth, he champions it. He feels excited when he sees you becoming more confident, more clear about what you want, more connected to your purpose. He understands that your growth doesn't threaten the relationship, it strengthens it because you're bringing more of your authentic self to the connection. When a man criticizes you for changing, he's essentially telling you that he preferred you when you were less than who you're capable of being. He's admitting that his love was conditional on your willingness to stay small. This isn't love, this is possession. This is someone who wants to own you rather than adore you. The most heartbreaking part is that women often interpret this phrase as evidence that they've done something wrong, that they've betrayed the relationship by growing. They feel guilty for becoming more themselves. They apologize for taking up more space, for having clearer boundaries, for pursuing their dreams with more intensity. They start to view their own evolution as selfish rather than as the natural progression of a healthy, conscious human being. Now that you know these 5 phrases and what they really mean, you might be sitting there feeling a mix of emotions. Maybe you're recognizing patterns from your past. Maybe you're seeing current relationships in a new light. Maybe you're feeling angry that no one taught you this before. Maybe you're feeling grateful that you're learning it now. All of these feelings are valid, and I want you to honor whatever's coming up for you. But here's what I need you to understand. This information isn't meant to make you cynical about love or suspicious of every man you meet. This is about developing discernment, the ability to distinguish between people who genuinely care about your well-being and people who are primarily focused on what they can get from you. This is about learning to trust your intuition when something feels off, even if you can't immediately articulate why. The truth is that there are men in this world who will never say these phrases to you because they understand that love is about creating safety, not testing limits. There are men who celebrate your sensitivity because they recognize it as emotional intelligence. There are men who deliver difficult truths with kindness because they actually care about your feelings. There are men who respect your boundaries because they understand that boundaries create intimacy, not distance. There are men who commit to you clearly and enthusiastically because they recognize your worth. There are men who love watching you grow because they understand that your expansion enhances the relationship rather than threatening it. These men exist, but you'll never recognize them if you're busy trying to rationalize the behavior of men who don't value you. You'll never attract them if you're settling for treatment that goes against your intuition. You'll never build something beautiful with them if you're exhausting your energy trying to heal someone who isn't interested in becoming better. Here's what I want you to do with this information. I want you to start paying attention to how you feel after conversations with the men in your life. Notice if you feel energized or drained. Notice if you feel seen and valued or confused and diminished. Notice if you feel encouraged to be more yourself or pressured to be less yourself. Your body keeps the score and your energy doesn't lie. Start trusting your initial gut reactions instead of talking yourself out of them. If something feels off in the first few weeks of knowing someone, it probably is. If you find yourself making excuses for someone's behavior or trying to convince yourself that their words didn't mean what you think they meant, pay attention to that. If you notice yourself changing your personality, your goals, or your standards to accommodate someone else's comfort, that's valuable information about the dynamic you're creating. Most importantly, I want you to understand that walking away from people who don't value you isn't cruel. It's self-love. It's not giving up on love. It's making space for real love to enter your life. Every moment you spend trying to convince someone to treat you well is a moment you're not available for someone who would never dream of treating you poorly. The right person for you won't require you to shrink yourself, explain your worth, or accept crumbs. The right person will see your value immediately and act accordingly. They won't need to be convinced to choose you because choosing you will feel like the most natural thing in the world. I want to share something with you that changed my entire perspective on relationships. Your boundaries aren't walls that keep love out. They're gates that let the right love in. When you clearly communicate what you need to feel safe and valued, you're not being difficult or demanding. You're being clear about the conditions under which you can show up as your most loving, generous, authentic self. The people who resist your boundaries aren't the people you want in your life anyway. The the people who celebrate your boundaries, who ask thoughtful questions about how to honor them, who make adjustments to their behavior because they want you to feel good in their presence. These are your people. These are the people who understand that love isn't about taking whatever you can get. It's about creating an environment where both people can flourish. Every time you honor your own boundaries, you're teaching people how to treat you. Every time you walk away from someone who dismisses your needs, you're making a statement about your worth that reverberates through every area of your life. Every time you choose yourself over someone else's comfort, you're building the foundation for relationships based on mutual respect rather than one-sided accommodation. This isn't about becoming hard or closed off. This is about becoming clear and intentional about who gets access to your energy, your time, your body, and your heart. This is about understanding that your love is precious and should be given to people who recognize its value, not to people who take it for granted. Here's the final truth I want to leave you with, and this might be the most important thing you hear today. You are not responsible for healing people who hurt you. You are not responsible for teaching people how to love you properly. You are not responsible for staying in situations that diminish your light just because someone else isn't ready to step into their own power. Your job is not to be so understanding, so patient, so forgiving that you lose yourself in the process. Your job is not to love people into becoming better versions of themselves. Your job is to be authentic, to honor your own needs, to trust your intuition, and to create a life that feels aligned with your deepest values. The love you're looking for is looking for you too, but it can only find you when you stop settling for less than what you deserve. It can only recognize you when you're being fully yourself, not when you're pretending to be smaller or easier or more convenient for someone else. So the next time someone says one of these 5 phrases to you, I want you to remember this conversation. I want you to take a deep breath, trust what you know to be true, and make the choice that honors your worth. Because you deserve love that feels like freedom, not love that feels like prison. You deserve love that celebrates your growth, not love that punishes it. You deserve love that sees your sensitivity as a gift, not love that treats it like a burden. Walk away from anyone who makes you question your worth. Walk toward people who celebrate it. Your future self will thank you for having the courage to choose yourself, even when it feels scary, even when it feels hard, even when it means walking away from potential that was never really there. The right love won't require you to sacrifice yourself to receive it. The right love will feel like coming home to yourself, not leaving yourself behind. Trust that, choose that, and never ever settle for less than that again.